Imagine waking up in the middle of the night with a strange premonition, only to discover at dawn that your child has vanished without a trace. In an instant, your peaceful life turns into an endless nightmare of searches, suspicions, and uncertainties. The story of Kirsten Hatfield is a sobering reminder that evil can lurk closer than we imagine, hidden in the normalcy of everyday life. Kirsten's disappearance not only shook a family but also revealed shocking failures in the police investigation that could have solved the mystery years earlier. On the night of May 13, 1997, Shannon was exhausted after a long day of work. She put her two daughters, Kirsten, 8, and Faith, 3, to bed. It was a night like any other in the quiet town of Midwest City, Oklahoma. Shannon usually read a bedtime story to the girls, but that night Faith had already fallen asleep. She kissed Kirsten on the forehead, wished her good night, and left the bedroom door slightly ajar, a habit she maintained to hear any movement during the night. Around 3 in the morning, Shannon was awakened by a noise coming from the girls' room. Still drowsy, she got up and went into the hallway. As she approached the door to the girls' room, the noise abruptly stopped. She hesitated for a moment, noticing that the door was completely closed, something unusual. She always left the door slightly open to hear if any of the girls woke up in the middle of the night. She decided to open the door just a crack, peered in briefly, and, seeing nothing out of the ordinary, returned to her room. The next morning, around 6:30, Shannon went to wake the girls. Upon entering the room, she found only Faith in bed. Panic instantly took over her. She shook little Faith, asking where her sister was, but the sleepy girl didn't know. Shannon searched the entire house, in every corner, but Kirsten was nowhere to be found. She ran out into the yard, into the street, but there was no sign of her daughter. Desperate, Shannon called friends and family. She called every house where Kirsten could have gone, but no one had seen her. Finally, she called her father, who lived nearby, hoping Kirsten had gone there. When he confirmed he hadn't seen the girl, the reality began to weigh on Shannon. With a heavy heart, she called the police, and officers quickly arrived at the scene. The police began an initial search of the house, believing Kirsten might be hiding or had gone for a walk. Midwest City was a quiet town, and there had never been a case of a child being kidnapped from their own bedroom. However, upon investigating the girls' room, officers found the window slightly ajar and some drops of blood on the windowsill. In the yard, a few meters from the house, they discovered a piece of children's clothing stained with blood. Shannon confirmed that the clothing belonged to Kirsten. With these disturbing pieces of evidence, the police concluded that Kirsten had been abducted. The case took a dark turn quickly. More officers were called in to assist with the search, and news of the disappearance soon spread through the community. From that moment on, every second counted, and the desperate search for Kirsten Hatfield had begun. The arrival of additional police officers turned the Hatfield home into a command center. The street was cordoned off, and officers began combing every inch of the property. Shannon was in shock but tried to help as best she could, answering the detectives' questions. Neighbors were interviewed one by one, but no one seemed to have seen or heard anything suspicious the previous night, except for one neighbor who reported hearing a dog barking around 3 in the morning. This coincided with the time Shannon had woken up. The police then decided to talk to Faith. Despite her young age, the girl was able to provide a crucial piece of information. "A bad person came and took my sister." Faith's words confirmed that Kirsten had not left on her own. Little Faith was visibly frightened, but her words reinforced the seriousness of the case. However, there were no more concrete details that could lead the police to a solid clue. Detectives began exploring all possibilities. Shannon's story was meticulously examined. She talked about her history of drug problems and failed relationships, but vehemently denied any involvement in her daughter's disappearance. Even so, the police considered the possibility that the abduction could be related to some debt or conflict from Shannon's past. Maybe someone had taken Kirsten as a form of revenge or payment. The police also considered the possibility of a kidnapper known to the family. If someone close had committed the crime, they could have easily accessed the house and known how to avoid making noise. While investigating, detectives discovered that the house where Shannon lived with her daughters had belonged to her brother. This meant that people close to the family might know the layout of the house well. Time was passing, and the tension was mounting. Shannon, desperate, began making public appeals on television and social media. She asked for help finding her daughter, describing her as a sweet and independent girl. Volunteers joined the search, distributing flyers and organizing patrols in the area. But the days turned into weeks, and there was no sign of Kirsten. Frustration and despair were growing for everyone involved. The community of Midwest City united in solidarity, but uncertainty and fear began to dominate. Parents became more vigilant with their own children, and Kirsten's case cast a constant shadow over the town. Meanwhile, the police continued to follow every lead, no matter how improbable. The search for Kirsten Hatfield was becoming a race against time, with everyone hoping for a miracle. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Each new lead was pursued with determination, but often led to dead ends. In one such lead, a woman called the police, suspecting her boyfriend might be involved in the kidnapping. He had been behaving aggressively, threatening her, and mentioning Kirsten in a disturbing way. The police immediately focused on him, investigating his past and connections. The suspect had a history of violence and drug involvement, which increased suspicion of his involvement. Furthermore, he knew Shannon's brother, meaning he could have had access to the house. However, his alibi was solid. He was at a bar on the night of the disappearance, and several witnesses confirmed his presence. Once again, the investigation hit a wall. The police continued to pursue other leads, but often found themselves back at the same dead ends. Shannon couldn't sit still, waiting for news. She actively involved herself in the search, organizing events to raise awareness about Kirsten's disappearance. She distributed flyers, appeared on television programs, and never lost hope of finding her daughter. Despite all the setbacks, she refused to give up. Each day was a battle against despair, and each new lead, a new spark of hope. The investigation faced several challenges. Some leads were false, made by people seeking attention or simply wanting to cause confusion. Other volunteers who initially helped began creating problems, diverting money, or lying about their activities. Shannon had to deal with these additional problems while trying to stay focused on the search for her daughter. Even so, she persisted, determined to find an answer. Amidst so many difficulties, Shannon decided she needed a different approach. She enrolled in college, studying criminology to better understand investigative processes and to protect other families from going through what she was experiencing. She became a parole officer, believing that Kirsten's kidnapper might be someone with a criminal history. She exhaustively analyzed numerous cases of violent criminals in the area, but found no direct connection to her daughter's disappearance. The police, although without new leads, kept the case active. From time to time, a new lead would emerge, but none led to a concrete resolution. Shannon, now more prepared and knowledgeable about investigative processes, continued to fight tirelessly, hoping that one day the truth about Kirsten's fate would be revealed. The quest for justice and answers remained the focus of her life. In 2014, an unexpected twist brought new life to the investigation. A woman contacted the police with a bizarre story. While organizing her deceased grandmother's belongings, she found a diary detailing her uncle's confession about Kirsten's murder. The diary's wealth of details was so impressive that detectives didn't doubt the information's veracity. According to the diary, the man had kidnapped Kirsten, taken her to a nearby town, committed atrocities, and then killed her. The diary's description included gruesome details that disturbed the detectives. It also mentioned that the entire act was recorded on VHS tapes. The police arrested the suspect, hoping to finally solve the case. During interrogation, the man denied involvement in the crime but said he knew who the real culprit was. He claimed the murder took place at his sister's ex-boyfriend's house, raising new questions for the investigators. Detectives obtained a search warrant for the mentioned house. Using luminol, a substance that reacts with blood traces, they discovered stains all over the house, confirming the diary's gruesome details. The walls and floors were carefully removed and sent for analysis. Meanwhile, detectives began searching for Kirsten's body in the surrounding area, hoping to finally find her. During the house search, detectives found a box containing hundreds of VHS tapes. The diary's memory made them believe one of these tapes might contain a record of the crime. They began meticulously analyzing the tapes, a long and agonizing process. However, after countless hours of viewing, none of the tapes contained any evidence related to Kirsten's kidnapping or murder. The hope they had began to dissipate again. The situation became even more complicated when the lab results arrived. The bloodstains found in the house were not human but animal. This was a devastating blow to the investigation, which seemed so close to a solution. Detectives were baffled, questioning the diary's authenticity and wondering if it was all a cruel prank or the delusion of a disturbed mind. Despite this major setback, the detectives didn't give up. They continued following other leads and looking for new information. The search for Kirsten continued, now more complex and filled with uncertainties. Each new discovery seemed to bring more questions than answers, but the determination of the investigators and Kirsten's mother remained unwavering. In 2015, the investigation into Kirsten Hatfield's disappearance was reevaluated by a new detective, Daryl Miller. Reviewing all the documents and evidence accumulated over the years, Miller noticed something alarming. The blood found on the windowsill and on Kirsten's clothes had never been analyzed. Determined to correct this oversight, he sent the samples to the lab, hoping for new leads. The analysis results brought a crucial revelation. The blood found did not belong to Kirsten but to an unknown man. This was a significant breakthrough in the investigation. The DNA was immediately compared with the FBI's database, but there was no match. This indicated that the criminal had no serious criminal record or that his crimes occurred before the database's creation. Miller then decided to collect DNA samples from all the men who had been investigated in Kirsten's case. The police compiled a list of suspects and possible persons of interest, located each one, and collected their samples. Surprisingly, all the men provided their DNA voluntarily, without resistance. The results began to come in, but none matched the DNA found at the crime scene. Finally, after a long wait, the lab identified a match. The DNA belonged to Anthony Palma, a neighbor of the Hatfield family who had been one of the first interviewed by the police on the day of the disappearance. Palma had said that he woke up around 3 in the morning due to his dog barking, which coincided with the time of the suspected abduction. This new evidence placed Palma at the center of the investigation. Palma was brought in for interrogation, where he initially repeated the same story from 18 years ago. However, this time he added a new detail. He saw a white car parked in front of the Hatfield house that night. When asked about his relationship with the family, he claimed to know Shannon and her daughters, but denied having any close interaction with Kirsten. He also said he had never been inside the house while the family lived there. The police confronted Palma with the DNA evidence, informing him that his blood was found at the crime scene. Despite this, Palma continued to deny any involvement. Detectives knew they had a solid case but needed a confession to close the case once and for all. The tension in the interrogation room increased as detectives tried to extract the truth from Palma. With the DNA confirmation, Anthony Palma was formally charged with the kidnapping and murder of Kirsten Hatfield. During the trial, additional details about Palma's criminal past came to light. He had previously been arrested for breaking into another child's bedroom and attempting to assault her. This history, combined with the DNA evidence, sealed Palma's fate in court. He was sentenced to life in prison but continued to deny his involvement in the crime. Shannon, still seeking answers, began visiting Palma in prison, hoping he would eventually confess where he had buried Kirsten's body. Each visit was a test of patience and emotional strength. She believed that, over time, Palma might break down and reveal what he had done with her daughter. However, Palma remained steadfast, refusing to provide any additional information. While Palma served his sentence, Shannon continued her tireless search. She refused to give up, determined to find her daughter's remains and give her a proper burial. The community of Midwest City remained supportive, backing Shannon and her ongoing quest for justice. Kirsten's story became a symbol of resilience and determination, inspiring many not to lose hope, even in the darkest circumstances. In 2019, an unexpected turn of events occurred. Anthony Palma was murdered by his cellmate, who harbored a deep hatred for Palma due to his crimes against children. With Palma's death, Shannon's last hope of discovering Kirsten's whereabouts seemed to vanish. The pain of losing her daughter without definitive answers became even more acute, but Shannon continued to seek justice in every possible way. Palma's death was a hard blow, but also an opportunity for Shannon and the community to reflect on the lasting impact of Kirsten's disappearance. The search for Kirsten's body continued, with hope that one day, somewhere, the girl's remains would be found. Shannon, now stronger and more determined than ever, dedicated her life to protecting other children and preventing other families from enduring the same suffering. Kirsten Hatfield's story is a painful reminder of the evil that can exist in the world, but also a testament to a mother's strength and determination in seeking justice. Shannon's fight to find her daughter and bring her kidnapper to justice continues to resonate, inspiring many to never give up, even when all seems lost. The search for Kirsten continues, keeping alive the memory of a sweet and beloved girl whose life was tragically cut short. Kirsten Hatfield's story is a poignant reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, and that the search for truth requires courage and determination. Now, I ask you, if you were in Shannon's place, what would you do to protect those you love? Are you prepared to face the darkest secrets around you? Reflecting on these questions may be the first step to changing your life and ensuring your family's safety. Don't let this story fade into oblivion. Use the knowledge gained here to become more vigilant and proactive in your community. If this story touched you and you want to continue exploring mysteries and learning how to deal with critical situations, subscribe to the Spooky Stories channel and activate notifications. Join us for more intriguing tales and strategies to face the terrors that may be closer than we imagine. Your safety and that of those you love may depend on what you learn today. Don't miss out. Welcome to Spooky Stories. I'm Milo, your guide through the chilling and the unknown. Here, we dive into terrifying tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Join our community of thrill seekers, and let's explore the darkness together. Meet Sarah. Like many of us, she used to dread bedtime. Hours spent tossing and turning, waking up groggy and irritable, and worst of all, her relentless snoring that not only disturbed her sleep, but her partner's as well. Desperate for a solution, Sarah tried everything. New mattresses, white noise machines, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked until she discovered our breathing for sleep routine. One particularly frustrating night, Sarah stumbled upon an article about the power of breathing to improve sleep. Skeptical but willing to try anything, she read about our breathing for sleep routine, a simple, scientifically backed method designed to clear sinuses, enhance breathing, and eliminate oxygen blockades. It promised to guide users through a simple breathing routine for the best sleep of their lives. Intrigued, she decided to give it a shot. As she began the routine, Sarah immediately felt her sinuses clear. She followed the step-by-step guide, learning how to breathe deeply and correctly. Within minutes, she noticed a significant difference. Her breathing was smoother, more relaxed. That night, she fell asleep faster than she had in years and, incredibly, stayed asleep all night. One of the most astonishing benefits was the end of her snoring. The routine included a simple breathing hack that stopped her snoring in minutes. Sarah learned that her habit of mouth breathing was activating her survival mode, preventing her from achieving truly restful sleep. By switching to nasal breathing, she deactivated this mode and allowed her body to fully relax. The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so well rested. Her partner noticed the difference too. No more middle-of-the-night disruptions from her snoring. The transformation was remarkable, and Sarah knew she had found something special. Sarah's story is not unique. Many others have discovered the life-changing benefits of our breathing for sleep routine. Imagine falling asleep quickly, sleeping soundly through the night, and waking up feeling fully rested. No more snoring, no more grogginess, just deep, restorative sleep. Are you ready to transform your sleep like Sarah did? Our breathing for sleep routine is easy to follow and starts working immediately. Clear your sinuses, enhance your breathing, and remove oxygen blockades with our guided routine. Say goodbye to snoring and hello to the best sleep of your life. Check out the link for this wonder in the description and the comments.